Welcome to the Coin's Quest, where every coin tells a story, and sometimes that story is worth a fortune. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most incredible and legendary finds in American coin collecting history, the 1944 D. Lincoln Wheat Penny, a small copper coin that could be worth as much as $712,000 because of its remarkable errors, its extraordinary minting anomalies, and the sheer rarity that makes collectors across the world lose their minds when one appears on the market. Because this is not just another old penny, it's a symbol of how a small mistake at the Denver Mint during the chaos of wartime America created one of the most valuable coins in circulation today. To understand why this particular coin commands such astronomical prices, we have to travel back to 1944, a year when the world was engulfed in World War II. The U.S. Mint was operating under pressure to support the war effort, and metal shortages forced mints to adapt their production methods. In 1943, pennies were struck on zinc-coated steel planchets to save copper from military equipment. But by 1944, the mint reverted to using copper planchets made from recycled shell casings, giving birth to the famous shell case cents, which were supposed to be made entirely of copper alloy. However, this period of transition caused massive confusion in the minting process, and that's where our 1944 D penny story begins, because in the Denver Mint, amidst the switch from steel back to copper, some leftover steel planchets from 1943 accidentally made their way into the presses meant for 1944 copper cents. When these steel planchets were struck with the 1944 D dies, they created one of the most stunning minting mistakes in U.S. coin history. A 1944 D steel cent that was never meant to exist, a ghost from a bygone production year that somehow slipped through the cracks of one of the most monitored coin operations in history. Imagine the workers at the Denver Mint, thousands of coins being produced every minute, machines humming with relentless speed, and somehow a handful of steel blanks, intended for the prior year's wartime issue, sliding in unnoticed, producing these era coins that now sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars decades later. The 1944 D Wheat Penny, struck on a steel planchet instead of copper, has magnetic properties unlike its intended copper counterparts. This magnetism alone sets it apart immediately, as normal 1944 pennies made from recycled shell casings do not stick to magnets. So if you happen to find a 1944 D penny and it's magnetic, your heart should probably skip a beat, because you might be holding one of the rarest coins ever minted by the United States, a small metallic anomaly worth a small fortune. Collectors have long theorized how many of these steel 1944 D cents were actually struck, and though no official records exist, experts estimate that perhaps only 7 to 10 genuine examples survive today, making them rarer than most gold coins and infinitely more fascinating due to their origin story. Every coin collector dreams of finding a piece like this in an old jar of change or a relative's coin collection, because the odds are so incredibly small that one of these mistakes escaped the mint, circulated for even a short time, and somehow survived the melting pots and time's destructive march. The 1944 D era penny represents the perfect storm of historical context, mechanical oversight, and the human element in minting. A small oversight during a global conflict that created a treasure. Let's take a closer look at what makes this coin so unique. Normally, a 1944 D penny should be made of a bronze alloy consisting of about 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, giving it that warm reddish tone we recognize from traditional wheat pennies. However, the era 1944 D penny was struck on a leftover zinc-coated steel planchet from 1943. Which gives it a distinctive silvery gray appearance, and over time, these coins often develop light corrosion or toning that makes them appear slightly mottled or spotted compared to the smooth brown tone of genuine 1944 copper cents. Under magnification, experts can also see telltale signs of the steel planchet's composition, such as the faint roughness on the surface or the way the metal reacts under different light sources. Weight is another major diagnostic. While a standard 1944 D bronze penny weighs around 3.11 grams, the rare steel variety weighs closer to 2.7 grams, a difference that can be detected with a precision scale. This seemingly small discrepancy is one of the biggest giveaways, along with the fact that these coins stick to magnets. These features make authentication a critical part of verifying a 1944 D steel penny's legitimacy. Because counterfeits do exist, many have tried to create fakes by plating regular 1944 copper cents with a layer of zinc or chromium to mimic the silvery steel appearance, or by altering a 1943 steel cent to read 1944 through engraving manipulation. But true experts can spot these deceptions immediately, as genuine 1944 D steel cents show exact die characteristics that match known genuine. Examples: each authentic coin bears a distinctive die alignment, mint mark placement, and strike pressure consistent with the Denver Mint's 1944 production setup, making the authentication process as much an art as a science. Collectors are obsessed with this penny not just because of its error, but because it's such a symbol of American history. Every scratch, every worn letter, represents the story of wartime production, industrial change, and human oversight. Think about it. The Mint had transitioned from steel to copper, had to melt down millions of shell casings, and somehow these few steel blanks from 1943 were never discarded. Perhaps they were stuck in the bins, perhaps they rolled under machinery and were retrieved later, or maybe an employee mistakenly added them to the 1944 batch, unaware that they didn't belong. Whatever the reason, that single act birthed one of the rarest and most valuable U.S. coins ever created. The 1944 D steel penny isn't just valuable because of its metal composition, it's valuable because of its story, the rarity of the error, and the emotional reaction it provokes among collectors who realize that mistakes can sometimes become masterpieces. Each time one of these coins surfaces in an auction, the buzz in the coin community reaches fever pitch. In fact, when one sold for $115,000 several years ago, experts believed that would be the record, but in a later sale, an almost pristine example graded MS66 by PCGS fetched over $712,000, proving that condition, certification, and provenance can elevate these coins to legendary status. The higher the grade, the cleaner the surfaces, and the sharper the strike, the more collectors are willing to pay, and since so few have been found in mint state condition, those that survive uncirculated are practically priceless. Many collectors fantasize about stumbling upon one in an inherited coin jar, a flea market find, or even a metal detecting discovery. And while the odds are astronomically low, the dream is part of what fuels the passion behind coin collecting, the idea that history could literally be sitting in your pocket disguised as a common penny. Beyond the steel planchet era, there are other varieties of the 1944 D penny that also attract collector interest, such as repunched mint marks, RPMs, doubled dies, and striking anomalies, all of which can increase value dramatically, though not nearly as much as the steel version. For example, a 1944 D RPM variety, where the D mint mark was punched into the die more than once, creating a visible shadow or doubling of the D, can sell for several $100s even in circulated condition, and more if it's in a high grade. Similarly, some 1944 D cents show slight doubling in the date or lettering, such as on Liberty or In God We Trust, often caused by mechanical or hub doubling during the die creation process. These errors, while minor compared to the steel planchet anomaly, still make the 1944 D penny fascinating because they reveal how even advanced machinery isn't immune to human or mechanical imperfection. The Denver Mint in 1944 was producing millions upon millions of cents, so the chances of small imperfections slipping through were quite high, but those imperfections are now treasures to collectors who seek out every variation possible. Another interesting aspect of the 1944 D penny's history lies in the broader context of wartime America. This was a period when copper was vital for producing ammunition, electrical wiring, and communication equipment, meaning that every ounce of copper used for coinage had to be justified. When the Mint decided to revert to copper in 1944 using recycled shell casings, it symbolized both a patriotic and practical decision to reuse the remnants of war for the tools of peace and economy. This connection gives the 1944 pennies an emotional weight that resonates even today. Holding one is like holding a piece of that transitional moment in American history. But when you hold a steel 1944 D penny, you're holding a contradiction, a coin that shouldn't exist at all, a relic of an era that defied the Mint's intention. That contradiction fascinates people because it embodies imperfection turned to greatness. Collectors often say that the beauty of numismatics lies not in perfection, but in rarity and uniqueness, and few coins demonstrate that philosophy as vividly as the 1944 D steel cent. Over the years, numismatists have studied every known example under microscopes, comparing die cracks, letter spacing, rim thickness, and reading to confirm authenticity and trace possible die pairings, and the consensus is clear. The genuine 1944 D steel pennies share extremely consistent features that cannot be replicated by forgers, including certain microscopic details in the mint mark and date alignment. Some experts have even hypothesized that all surviving examples might have come from the same pair of dies, making them not only rare but also part of a single, accidental batch, perhaps struck during one brief production shift before the mistake was noticed and corrected. That possibility only adds to the coin's mystique, as if the entire batch of these anomalies was born within minutes, each coin carrying the same fingerprint of error. Imagine how it must have felt for the first person to realize that a silvery 1944 D penny was magnetic when it shouldn't be, perhaps decades later during a casual coin inspection, that thrilling moment of discovery that launched an obsession. Since then, the hunt for these steel planchet errors has continued, with thousands of collectors testing their 1944 pennies with magnets, scales, and magnifying lenses, hoping to join the ranks of those lucky few who found the impossible. For many, the story of the 1944 D penny serves as a reminder that even the smallest details matter, and that fortune can hide in plain sight. Beyond its metallic composition and minting blunder, this coin also symbolizes how accidents can become treasures, how imperfection can outshine perfection in value and intrigue. Even though only a handful exist, each discovery reignites the dream that somewhere out there, another one might still be waiting in an old coffee can or a forgotten drawer. The enduring fascination with the 1944 D penny proves how powerful a simple object can be when it carries the weight of history, error, and mystery. The Denver Mint's mistake inadvertently created one of the holy grails of American coinage, and its legacy continues to inspire new generations of collectors. When you think about its journey, from the noise of wartime production to the quiet glass cases of high-end auctions, it's almost poetic that something as mundane as a 1-cent coin could end up commanding a price higher than luxury cars, fine art, or gold bullion. The 1944 D steel penny teaches us that in the world of coins, every detail counts: the metal, the mint mark, the context, the human hand behind the machine. And that's what makes the coin's quest so captivating: the search for meaning, mystery, and monetary marvels hidden in ordinary change. So next time you look at a penny, don't just see a coin, see a story waiting to be told, because you never know when you might be holding one of those few 1944 D steel planchet errors worth $712,000, a coin that transformed a simple mistake into an everlasting legend of American minting history. Next, 1945 1-cent USA Wheat Penny. We're taking you on a deep and detailed journey through one of the most astonishing and mysterious coins ever produced by the U.S. Mint, the 1945 no-mint mark Lincoln Wheat Penny, a seemingly common 1-cent coin that has become legendary among collectors and experts alike because of its baffling minting errors, its wartime origin, and the rare combinations of composition and die mistakes that have pushed its auction price to a staggering $1.6 million. It's hard to believe that a coin once used for buying a stick of gum or a newspaper could now command a price that rivals the most expensive vintage cars or pieces of fine art, but the 1945 no-mint mark penny from the Philadelphia Mint holds that distinction because it represents the perfect storm of rarity, mystery, and minting error, each of which contributes to its astronomical value. To truly understand why this particular penny is so valuable, we have to step back into 1945, a year filled with chaos, victory, and transition, the final year of World War II. America was shifting from wartime production back to peacetime economy, and the mints in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco were working around the clock to strike coins for a nation in flux. The Philadelphia Mint, which struck the no-mint mark pennies, was producing hundreds of millions of wheat cents, all made primarily from recycled shell casings recovered from the war effort, a mix of copper and a small percentage of tin and zinc. But amid this vast production, a few extraordinary errors occurred, errors that no one noticed for decades. And that's how the 1945 no-mint mark penny became the stuff of legends. Most 1945 pennies were made of copper alloy and are still common today, but an extremely small number were struck on experimental or leftover planchets, including some believed to be steel or bronze transitional errors, others on foreign planchets intended for coins of other nations, and even a few double-struck or off-metal examples that defy logic. These rare minting errors, combined with exceptional preservation and high-grade condition, have pushed some specimens into million-dollar territory. The 1945 no-mint mark penny that sold for $1.6 million is believed to be a combination of multiple minting anomalies, a hybrid between a leftover 1943 steel planchet and a transitional 1944 copper planchet, possibly struck with misaligned dies that created faint doubling on "In God We Trust" and "Liberty." This kind of composite error is almost unheard of and defies the standard quality control processes of the U.S. Mint, making this particular piece a one-of-a-kind numismatic miracle. Imagine the conditions at the Philadelphia Mint in 1945, workers exhausted from years of war production, machines running day and night, bins of planchets being recycled and mixed, and somewhere in that chaos, a few leftover steel blanks from 1943, or foreign planchets meant for Allied nations' coins, were accidentally fed into the presses that were supposed to strike copper pennies. The result was a 1945 penny that looked slightly different. Its surface had a duller, silvery tone instead of a bright red or brown copper luster, and its weight didn't match standard specs. A normal 1945 copper penny should weigh 3.11 grams, but this mysterious variant weighed about 2.7 grams, the same as a steel cent. That small difference, unnoticed at the time, would one day make it one of the most valuable coins on Earth. Collectors and graders from PCGS and NGC have confirmed that the surviving examples of these off-metal 1945 no-mint mark cents show unmistakable characteristics consistent with genuine mint errors rather than post-mint tampering, which adds immense credibility to their value. When such coins appear at auction, they create frenzy. Collectors and investors alike compete fiercely for ownership, knowing that there may only be one or two genuine examples in existence. And the most astonishing fact? The record-breaking 1945 penny sold for over $1.6 million not because of gold or diamonds but because of an unintentional flaw, a testament to how human error and historical timing can create treasures beyond imagination. Let's break down what makes this coin so unusual. First, the no-mint mark indicates it was produced in Philadelphia, the oldest U.S. mint facility, which traditionally did not use a mint mark for 1-cent coins. That alone wouldn't be special, but during this period, Philadelphia was experimenting with planchets of varying alloys to optimize wartime and post-war production. It's believed that some planchets intended for foreign coins, possibly Belgian 2 centime or Peruvian 1 centavo pieces, which used similar but slightly lighter metal compositions, were mistakenly used in the production of 1945 pennies. This would explain the steel-like surface and reduced weight. Others believe that leftover 1943 zinc-coated steel planchets, which somehow escaped being scrapped, were mixed in with the 1945 copper blanks, producing a handful of steel 1945 pennies that shouldn't exist. If true, these coins would be even rarer than the 1944 steel cents, since fewer examples have ever surfaced. Another theory suggests that the $1.6 million example was struck twice or even 3 times, creating visible doubling under magnification, especially on the date and lettering, a phenomenon known as a double or triple strike, caused when the coin fails to eject properly between strikes. This kind of minting accident adds immense rarity, as it requires both timing and mechanical malfunction to occur. Combine that with an off-metal planchet, and you have a once-in-a-lifetime numismatic error. The visual appeal of the 1945 no-mint mark era penny also contributes to its value. Its surface is unlike any normal penny from that era, metallic, almost silvery gray with subtle streaks of bronze and zinc tones, a mesmerizing contrast that makes it instantly recognizable to trained eyes. Under magnification, the texture of the coin reveals tiny ripples caused by uneven pressure during striking, which experts use to authenticate its mint origin. It also exhibits die markers unique to the Philadelphia Mint's 1945 production run, such as micro scratches and alignment features consistent with genuine dies used that year, proving that the coin wasn't altered or fabricated. Authentication is critical, of course, because with a coin worth $1.6 million, forgeries are inevitable. Many have tried to replicate the steel-like appearance by plating regular copper pennies with zinc or nickel, or by altering dates on 1943 steel cents to make them read 1945, but professional graders can easily detect such attempts through weight, composition analysis, and microscopic examination of the date numerals. The genuine article, however, tells a story no fake can mimic, the story of a minting mistake during a historic transition, a tangible reminder of America's wartime industrial chaos. But the question remains, how could such an error escape detection at the mint? During 1945, mint workers prioritized volume and speed to meet economic demand, and the inspection processes were primarily visual and random. With billions of coins produced, it's entirely plausible that a few off-metal strikes slipped through undetected, especially since the color difference might not have been as noticeable when freshly minted. By the time these coins entered circulation, their distinctive tone could have been mistaken for simple discoloration or oxidation. Only decades later, when collectors began examining coins under better lighting and equipment, did the anomalies become apparent. The discovery of the 1945 no-mint mark off-metal penny was revolutionary. It challenged the assumptions of numismatists who believed all wartime errors had been documented. Its emergence reignited the thrill of the unknown in the collecting community, proving that even in modern times, history still hides surprises. The coin's journey from mint era to million-dollar masterpiece is one of sheer luck and preservation. Most of these accidental coins likely circulated briefly before being lost, damaged, or melted. The few that survived did so because someone, perhaps unknowingly, saved them in a collection, in a jar, or in an estate, protecting them for decades. When the $1.6 million specimen surfaced, it was in near-perfect mint state condition, graded MS66, showing full wheat ears on the reverse, sharp strike details, and only the faintest surface marks. Its preservation suggested that it had been kept out of circulation almost since the day it was minted, a factor that exponentially increased its value. What also elevates the allure of the 1945 no-mint mark penny is its connection to the broader story of the Lincoln Wheat series, which spans from 1909 to 1958, one of the most beloved and widely collected coin series in the United States. Within that series, transitional errors, such as the 1943 copper, the 1944 steel, and now the 1945 off-metal or double-struck variants, form a trinity of legendary rarities, each representing a moment when the mint's precision faltered and history took an unexpected turn. Owning one of these is like holding a piece of time itself, a fragment of an era defined by war, innovation, and human imperfection. The fascination lies not just in the metal or the money, but in the mystery. Why were these planchets present? How did they get used? And how many more might still be out there? The possibilities keep collectors awake at night, scouring old coin rolls, estate collections, and antique shops for that one faintly silvery 1945 penny that could change their life forever. The 1945 no-mint mark penny's record-breaking sale price also reflects a growing global interest in numismatics as both a hobby and an investment. High-net-worth collectors now view rare-era coins as alternative assets, comparable to fine art or vintage watches, because of their scarcity and historical significance. Each time a new record is set, it fuels the frenzy further, encouraging more people to check their coins, test them with magnets, weigh them on scales, and examine their surfaces under magnifiers. The dream of finding a coin worth $1 million in your loose change has never been stronger, and the 1945 penny epitomizes that dream. It teaches us that even the smallest, most overlooked objects can carry immense stories and unimaginable value. There are rumors that additional variants of the 1945 penny exist, some struck on bronze planchets with improper alloy mixtures that give them unusual coloration, such as dark chocolate brown, reddish gold, or even pale orange hues that shimmer differently under light. These color anomalies, while not as rare as the off-metal steel variety, still intrigue collectors who specialize in toning and patina analysis, since such effects can indicate slight changes in metal composition or storage conditions. Some 1945 pennies also show striking die cracks along Lincoln's shoulder or through the wheat stalks on the reverse, small fissures in the die that filled with metal during striking, producing raised lines on the coin. While minor, these die cracks can make certain coins distinct and collectible, especially if they appear in interesting patterns. Every detail matters in the world of numismatics, and in the case of the 1945 no-mint mark penny, every detail has been studied, debated, and celebrated. From its anomalous composition and historical context to its pristine condition and astronomical sale price, this coin has earned its place among the pantheon of legendary American minting errors. And the best part? It continues to inspire hope and excitement, reminding every collector that miracles can emerge from the most ordinary places. Maybe in your own coin jar there's a penny that's just a bit lighter, a bit different in color, or a bit magnetic. That's all it takes to turn a cent into a $1 million masterpiece. So keep looking, keep searching, and never underestimate the power of curiosity, because in the coin's quest, every coin holds a secret, and sometimes, as the 1945 no-mint mark penny proves, that secret could be worth $1.6 million and a place in history as one of the rarest and most fascinating coins ever to leave the U.S. Mint. Next, 1958 1-cent USA wheat penny small copper circles become symbols of mystery, fortune, and American history, and today we're exploring one of the most electrifying stories in numismatics, the tale of the 1958 no-mint mark Lincoln wheat penny, a coin so elusive and extraordinary that it shocked the entire collecting world when examples surfaced, commanding prices reaching $909,000 and becoming one of the rarest post-war pennies ever struck by the U.S. Mint. On the surface, a 1958 penny might look utterly ordinary. After all, billions were made, and most people can still find them in circulation today. But a microscopic difference in the design turned a handful of these coins into million-dollar treasures, a difference invisible to the casual eye yet instantly identifiable to experts who know the secrets hidden in the details. This is the story of the 1958 double-die obverse penny, one of the most spectacular minting blunders in history, and how a few small strokes of misalignment during die creation transformed what should have been a common wheat cent into a legendary artifact worth nearly $1 million. To understand the magnitude of this discovery, we must step back to the Philadelphia Mint in 1958, the final year of the iconic Lincoln wheat reverse before it was replaced by the Lincoln Memorial design in 1959. The Mint was producing huge quantities of coins, preparing to close an era that had lasted half a century, and quality control was at its strictest. Yet even with such precision, mistakes can and do happen, and sometimes those mistakes are so subtle that they escape notice for decades. During the process of hubbing, the stage when the coin's design is transferred from a master die to a working die, one of the obverse dies used to strike pennies that year received two impressions that were slightly misaligned. Normally, this would be caught and corrected, but in this instance, it wasn't. The result was a double die obverse, where the design elements, particularly the inscriptions, Liberty, and In God We Trust, appear slightly doubled under magnification. This doubling is bold and dramatic, especially visible in the motto and date, creating a ghost-like shadow effect that collectors instantly recognize as the hallmark of a genuine minting error rather than post-mint damage or machine doubling. The error die went on to strike a very small number of pennies, perhaps as few as 2 to 3 known surviving examples, before it was either replaced or destroyed, making this coin one of the rarest Lincoln cents ever created. The rarity alone would make it valuable, but what truly propelled it into numismatic legend was its authenticity and mystery. The first known 1958 double-die penny surfaced decades later, discovered not in circulation but reportedly within a collector's hoard of old bank-wrapped rolls. When it was submitted for grading, experts at the Professional Coin Grading Service (PCGS) were stunned. It was clearly genuine, the doubling was undeniable, and the die markers matched those expected from a legitimate 1958 obverse die. For years, many numismatists believed no double dies existed for that year, as minting technology had supposedly advanced beyond such major errors. But this coin proved that even in modern minting, perfection is elusive. It was graded MS64RD, meaning mint state with full red luster, and instantly became one of the most desirable coins in the Lincoln series. Later, another example surfaced, also in red mint state condition, confirming that this was not an isolated anomaly but a legitimate die variety. When these coins appeared at auction, collectors went wild. The combination of rarity, condition, and historical context drove prices into the stratosphere, with one specimen fetching $336,000 and later sales and valuations approaching $909,000 as awareness and demand exploded. Why so valuable? Because this is not a minor error. It's one of the boldest and rarest double dies in existence, rarer than the famous 1955 double die or even the 1969 double die cent, both of which are immensely valuable in their own right. But the 1958 double die has something even those don't: extreme scarcity. While hundreds of 1955 double dies and a few dozen 1969 examples are known, only a couple of genuine 1958 double dies exist. That kind of rarity puts it in a class of its own. The doubling on the 1958 no-mint mark penny is clean and strong, with perfectly aligned doubling that mirrors the original design instead of smearing it. You can clearly see the doubled strokes on the L and I of Liberty, the separation in the letters of "In God We Trust," and subtle but distinct doubling on the digits of the date, particularly the 9 and 5. The coin's reverse, depicting the familiar wheat stalks flanking 1 cent and United States of America, shows no doubling, confirming that the error occurred only on the obverse die. This is key to its classification as a true double die and not a mechanical shift. The coin's color, luster, and strike quality are exceptional, and the best known examples have been carefully preserved, likely never circulated. These pristine conditions only enhance their desirability, since collectors value not just the rarity of the error but also the state of preservation, with red uncirculated examples fetching the highest premiums. Beyond its technical aspects, the 1958 double die penny carries enormous historical significance because it marks the very end of the wheat cent era, a series that began in 1909 with the introduction of the Lincoln design and endured through 2 world wars, the Great Depression, and the industrial transformation of America. The fact that one of the rarest and most dramatic errors occurred in the final year of production adds a layer of poetic irony. It's as if the mint's farewell to the wheat design was sealed with a mistake so rare that it became immortal. Collectors often talk about the holy trinity of double die cents, the 1955, 1969s, and 1958, and among them, the 1958 is the most mysterious. While the 1955 double die was the result of a widely distributed error that escaped into circulation by the tens of thousands, and the 1969s was caught quickly but still left a few dozen survivors, the 1958 error seems to have been produced in an almost secretive burst, limited to perhaps a single die pair, with only a handful of coins struck before correction. That makes it not only rare but also enigmatic. How did it escape the mint? Why did it take decades to surface? Who first noticed it? The answers remain uncertain, adding to its mystique. The Philadelphia Mint in 1958 was a bustling operation, with multiple presses striking millions of cents daily, and the chances of a double die going unnoticed were slim, but not impossible. Die preparation was still done by human hand, with the master hubs manually impressed into the working dies multiple times to ensure full design depth. If the hubs shifted slightly between impressions, the doubling effect could occur. Normally, quality control would identify such errors early, but if a die was pressed late in a production cycle or overlooked during inspection, it could be fitted into a press and used before anyone realized the flaw. Once discovered, the die would have been destroyed, but by then, a few coins had already been struck and released. Those few coins became legends. It's worth noting that some have attempted to counterfeit the 1958 double die penny by altering normal 1958 cents to simulate the doubling, but no imitation has ever passed professional scrutiny. Authentic examples show die markers such as tiny die scratches, alignment consistency, and raised doubling consistent with the hubbing process, details impossible to replicate through engraving or machine doubling. As of now, only 2 or 3 genuine examples are verified, and experts believe no others have survived. That scarcity drives both the price and the passion. When a coin sells for $909,000, it's not just the metal or the age that matters, it's the combination of story, rarity, and emotion. The 1958 double die penny represents perfection in imperfection, the beauty of a mistake frozen in time, and the thrill of knowing that out of billions of identical coins, only a few were touched by this rare alignment of chance and history. Imagine the excitement of holding one, knowing it's one of perhaps 2 or 3 in existence, a direct link to a moment at the mint when human hands and mechanical precision fell ever so slightly out of sync, creating a masterpiece of error. For coin collectors, it doesn't get more thrilling than that. The 1958 no-mint mark penny is a testament to how numismatics captures human history through metal, art, and chance. It reminds us that even in mass production, uniqueness can emerge, pure, unplanned, and priceless. Whether locked away in a museum vault or showcased in a private collection, each 1958 double die penny stands as a symbol of rarity, legacy, and the enduring allure of the Lincoln wheat cent. It closes the chapter on an era with a whisper of mystery and a roar of value, a coin that proves that even the smallest mistake can leave an indelible mark worth $909,000 and a permanent place in the annals of the coin's quest.